Welcome, everybody, to a very exciting evening of learning more about two wonderful actors. The first actor that we're going to talk to is Robert Montano. And so here's the first question for you. What made you decide to become an actor?
Oh my God. Well, I actually became a dancer first before I became an actor. But and this is kind of, well, this is in my play called Small. That back in the 70s when I was working at the racetrack, I was a professional racehorse jockey. Could no longer make the weight because I just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I was riding at Hialeah racetrack, and they were filming some big movie. I later found out it was called The Champ with Ricky Schroeder and John Boyd.
Wow.
And I was living on the racetrack, and my father being a college professor at Pratt Institute, I called him up and I said, "Pop, I think I want to go to school." And he said, "Oh my God, you want to go to college?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so, you know." And he said, "Well, what's making you say this?" And he said, "Well, you know, I had this guy who was behind a camera, and he said, 'Listen, hey kid, if you ride your horse across the camera several times, you know, just go by, come back here and I'll give you some extra money.'" So I said, "Okay." So I went to the guy and I said, "Hey pal, you know, I'm here for the money." And he reached in his pocket, gave me a couple of bucks, you know. I said, "Hey pal, can I watch what's going on over here?" And he said, "Yeah, but you gotta," you know, I had no idea, but it was Franco Zeffirelli.
Wow.
And I was blown away. And so I watched it, and that's what, you know, it was the impetus for me to call my dad and say, "Hey, Pop, I think I want to go to school." And he said, "For what?" I was going to say acting, but then my sister got on the other line. She said, "Bobby, dance, dance. You have rhythm, dance." So they checked out a few schools before I got home. And they checked out Adelphi University and Juilliard and Purchase and all of that. And so we came on Adelphi at the age of 20, never have a dance in my life, you know, just going to the discos, the clubs, you know, that's what the girls were. So I auditioned for Adelphi, and they took me, accepted me, and gave me a full scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then after that, because 1 week before I graduated, I got the show Cats. So, and after that, I was working. I was like, thank God, you know, this is what I guess I was meant to do. But I wanted to explore other areas of the performance arts. So I decided to go to acting class. And I went to acting class, and I just kept going in that direction. And it was at that time, it was very, very hard to break the mold of you just being a dancer, and then your agent saying, "Well, you know, why are they going to want to see you?" And they got so and so who's been acting. Well, you know, we got to take that chance, you know. But they weren't willing to take the chance, and I was getting straight out offers to do this musical, that musical, and I was saying no politely, because the buck stops with you. I feel that if you don't take yourself seriously, why would they take you seriously? So I had to decline, you know, dance gig after dance gig. And Chita Rivera, who was very dear to me, you know, she said, "Baby, you got to dance as much as you can because you're really good at it." And I said, "Well, I'll do it, but I wanted to be on my terms because I wanted to be able to do roles," and which led me into doing Ozzy at the Gershwin Theater in George Wolfe's production of On the Town.
Wow.
I was able to come back and incorporate, you know, all of it, acting, singing, dance, you know.
Oh, that's great. That's a good way to start, to go from horses to dancing to acting. That's very wonderful.
You know, the racetrack also gave me my tools in how to work, and the discipline and the focus. I didn't know I was so passionate about it until until my sister said, you have rhythm. You do so well at the clubs, maybe you could do something. And I remember watching, the Ed Sullivan Show when I was a kid, and watching Peter Gennaro and all these dancers, and then watching Soul Train and, the movie West Side Story. And it's like, I had all these, Gene Kelly. I mean, I loved Fred Astaire, but I really loved Gene Kelly because he was so athletic.
Yeah,
So I had my little heroes, and it's something that I was able to incorporate into my play.
that's great. So it sounds like your sister was the first person to encourage you to go for
Oh
it.
yeah, because she wanted to dance herself until she had lots of ankle problems. It's like jumping from the couch to this to that, and then boom, it didn't. Yeah.
So she gets to live vicariously through you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the flip side is when you were struggling to act versus dance, like what kept you going, and who was there a person or yourself being focused that kept you going?
Well, you know what? I always feel like, if you, which is kind of a shame right now, and I'll get into that part of the shamefulness of where we're at now with, students getting to see shows. It's the cost is incredibly high. And back then when I felt it was important for me to go to see Broadway shows, movies, to be inspired. I had to be inspired, and that's what kept me in the game. So I was going to movie after movie after movie, and Sean Penn and Gary Oldman, my heroes, and I'd be watching the film, and I would tell my buddy, Steve Shanti, I said, bro, I'm gonna do that. One day I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be up there. Why not us? Why not us? It takes people to do these jobs. Why not us? Why not me? And yeah, and so I was able to eventually crack into that and make that dream come true. But like I said, to be inspired, and that's what kept me going in that direction. And as I was going in that direction, my bank account that I made from all these musical shows that I had done, it was starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Before you knew it, my buddy Steve Shanti and I were like sharing a half a bran muffin and a coffee, at a diner, just making each other laugh, But that's what kept me going. It's being inspired by film.
That's great. Was there any particular film that did it for you more than others? Do you know?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, when I was in college, it is a film called Ordinary People.
Mhm. Robert Redford, yes.
Yeah. And something happened to me when I saw the film, and thank God I went alone, because as I was watching it, I had such a connection to the Timothy Hutton's character.
Mm.
And I kept putting my hands like this on my side because I don't want anyone to see me emotional. It just really moved me. It was so real. One would think, me being Italian, Puerto Rican, it's going to be The Godfather, Donnie Brasco and all these, I love De Niro and Pacino, all those guys. But for me, it was Sean Penn, because he's an actor that just loves wearing different shoes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ordinary People touched lots of people in many different ways. I remember walking out of the theater upset by what I had just seen. So yeah. And the acting was amazing. So you really lived and breathed it. So yeah.
But that's the thing. It moved you.
Yeah.
It moved you. And when I see great acting like that just seems so effortless and so real, and the scenario, the storyline is just so real that I think a lot of people can connect to it in some way or another, to characters.
Yeah, that shows. So what's the one thing you know now that you wished you knew then when you first started?
Oh God. I don't
or
know.
more than one thing.
Yeah, I don't know if like auditioning is just something that's, you know, I don't know any actor friend of mine that really likes auditioning. And I wish I had my first audition in person at MTC a couple of weeks ago, and it was just so great to be in there. Whereas before the whole COVID situation, I was like, oh God, I really despise going in the room, and sweating palms and all of that. I was that kid when I was in high school and junior high. As soon as I got that #2 pencil in my hand, I started to sweat.
Uh,
And I thought to myself, it's the same thing. You're putting yourself on the chopping block when you're auditioning, but it has to be done. And I would say to that kid, where I am now is like, relax. They're on your side. They want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. They're not there to shoot you. Just relax. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, lots of other actors have said being able to go back to doing it in person is a wonderful thing compared to just sending a video and doing that. So
Yeah. I just find it, because now as I've gotten older, I really want to see if there's a rapport with the director, because it's not a one-way street. Even though they're directing you, at the audition, you want that job, but when you work together, you got to be able to collaborate and have fun. And for me, I won't take on a project unless I'm having fun with it. Yeah.
what was the latest project that you had fun with?
Well, my play.
Yeah.
My play. Yeah, I really enjoyed, over the years of working with some great directors like Joe Brancato, Hal Prince, Rob Marshall. I've really worked with some really wonderful directors. But working with Jesse Hill on this, one of the things that I said, I don't ever really talk in terms of you have to, you must, you should. And I always want this to breathe and say, what if, how about, maybe. And this is what she has already had in her vocabulary, and we were able to work that way. And I don't know if I can curse on this thing, so I won't. But yes, but I say to everyone, let's all right, let's have fun today. It's we're not set in stone here. Let's F it up, and first day of rehearsal, the stage manager and the sound designer and the lighting designer, they were like this, and then within a couple of days, they say, hey, Bobby, let's F it up today. Let's F it up. Because it's got to be fun, and it's like there's no right, there's no wrong. Let's just play and let's see what happens. Even though it's just me on that stage, still I rely on the lighting designers, creativity, and the sound designer, which we have really. The whole thing is just, for me, a dream that has come true, is coming to fruition, and I'm just glad that, thank God, my father had a chance to at least hear the first reading of it. And then, I know he's seeing it from heaven every performance. So
would you like to tell everybody a little bit about the play?
Yeah, well, Small is autobiographical. It's about my days and trials and tribulations when I was a jockey. I had been befriended by this jockey by the name of Robert Pineda. He was my hero. He taught me how to ride. He took me under his wing. He protected me. And he taught me how to behave on the racetrack. And he's very, very prevalent in the storyline, which he ended up dying on the track. He ended up getting killed in a race, and his brother got killed 3 years before him.
Wow.
In a race as well. my mother did not want me to be a jockey, but my father, being the artist that he was, you know, he made it possible for me to work on the track. But even then, you know, when he saw that I was basically killing myself trying to lose weight, running every day with plastics and saran wrap and, you know, heaving and not eating and doing all kinds of things in my body that he was begging me to stop, but I just couldn't. He understood that part of it where it was like he had this saying, you know, don't just wish and wonder, do something about it.
Hmm.
You know, and I lived by that credo. But when I saw that I could no longer do it, and I was really getting to a place of really physically hurting myself, where I'm bleeding through my nose, my mouth,
Hmm.
that I had to find something else. And I didn't know what that was. And when Robert Pineda had just died, I came to terms with myself, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I was working at Saratoga, my brother Steven, who I got a job on the track as a groom, he said, "Look at you. You're what's happening with you? You're dying in that room every day. I'm gonna take you out to a club." So we went to, you know, the Rafters Disco in Saratoga, and I started to find my thing, you know. But I was dancing out of anger, which eventually turned into pleasure. Um, and having, you know, this very, very skinny body and these huge buck teeth. And I'm not kidding, they were huge. I mean, I can hang clothing off of them. You know, it was that bad. As I said, they were sticking out and they were spread. And this beautiful girl asked me to dance with her. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe there's something to this, you know, but I never really thought about it. And when we went to Florida, you know, to Hialeah to work there over the winter, you know, that's when things started to really, you know, come into my head, thinking, okay, let me reach out to Pop. Yeah,
And so this is all part of this story is part of the play.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I had been approached by someone earlier on in my career to write something about it with John Jury, who was he was the artistic director at Actors Theatre Louisville, and I had done a play out there, and he said to me, you know, you should write something, you know, that I was, nah, it's not interesting. And then he would ask me a series of questions, and he says, that's your story, you know, write it. And I did it. And then eventually I finally broke down and started writing it. It was a film. I had sent a manuscript to Terrence McNally, because we had worked together on Cheetah's show. And I said, Terrence, would you read my manuscript? You know, I tried writing it as a one-man play. I can't make it work. So I think this is a book. And then he said to me, no, this is a film. It's very, very, uh, uh, it's visual. So I said, okay. And I started writing that. I got optioned twice.
Wow.
You know, they wanted to mess around with it, but I was like, no, I'm going to take it back. And it was a clause in there that if you're not going to change the storyline. And they said, well, Seabiscuit made this kind of money and that kind of, and I said, it's not about Seabiscuit. It's about this kid's broken dreams and where does he go from there, you know? So about second chances. And then I was working with this lady, Jackson Gay. She directed me in 3 or 4 different plays. And she asked me to read the screenplay. She read it, and she said, we're gonna have a meeting. I was like, okay. We meet. She said, you need to write this as a one-man play, and you need to let me direct it, and you need to do it. I was like, no. It took her a couple of years for her to get me to convince me to start writing. And I said, what am I afraid of? You know, so I wrote like 3 pages, I hit send, you know, and I went to her up at Yale. And she invited me to come up there. She said, write a couple more pages before you come here. This is what I'm talking about. This is on the path, you know. But Jackson, as talented as she is as a director, I needed her more than she can give me the time.
Hmm.
So I kind of shelved it, and my literary agent had approached me with Jessie Hill. She said, she may not like it, but what do you have to lose? And I was like, okay, yeah, send it. So Jessie called me 2 days later and said, hey, I just finished reading your play. Can I meet with you? I said, sure. Can you read it for me? I was like, not in a coffee shop. You can. So she met me in my apartment. I read it, and she loved it. She said, I would love to work with you on this. And here we are. Yeah.
The rest, they say, is history.
Yes.
So tell us where the play is going to go next. I know it was in Rockland County last year. Where's it going next?
Yeah, so we're going to do one performance. I have been invited by John Wooten at Enloe Recital Hall at Keene University. So we're going to do that March 18th for one performance. And then we're heading to 59E59 Theater this August, September run. And then after that, we're going to do People's Light Theater, start rehearsal December, January, February run. And also now I'm in conversation as of tomorrow with Oklahoma Lyric Theater. They want to do it out there. So it's picked up some traction. I was like, oh, okay.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes, it's a limited run here and there. So yeah.
Now we know where we can see it in the city, which is terrific.
Yes. I'm ecstatic to do 59E59.
Yes, I've been there. That's a great place to
I've been there
have performances. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
for Penguin shows.
Yes, I know. And Joe's helping it along with a couple of other producers. So I'm ecstatic.
Very wonderful. Is there anything else going on that we should know about?
No, this is it. It's very, very funny. I am not an actor who likes to take on a whole bunch of different projects at one time. And even auditioning right now, it's a distraction for me from what I really want to do. And it's small. And small is very physically demanding. It's very physically demanding. And I'm not just, doing these riding scenes that are great with the sound design that Brian Ronan, who is just fantastic, and I had come up with. But there's also dancing as well. And it looks like I'm changing the ending a little bit. I'm working on that now. And I have Jesse, my director, coming tomorrow, and we're tweaking with it. And there may be more physicality towards the end than I had before. Possibly. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.
Michael, are there any questions?
Yes, there are. We have 3 questions.
Okay.
Are you Rockland County born and bred?
I am not. I was born in Bayside, Queens. My first 7 years. Then we moved to Hempstead, Long Island, and I've been living in Manhattan now since 1980. Yeah, but I love Rockland County. I really enjoyed coming up to Penguin. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Yeah.
What keeps you going in this field after all these years?
There's really nothing else I really want to do. I get asked to talk to students, young students, when they first approach this field, and I get asked to teach master classes of acting. I go like, not interested, but I will talk to them about the business. And one of my first questions is, how many of you want to be stars? And they all raise their hands. Film stars, they all raise their hands. How many of you want to be real theater actors? You only get one take. They all raise their hands. Well, how many of you have another gig if this doesn't work out? And half of them raised their hand. I said, I don't mean to be strident, but go do that, because there's only one road for this business we call acting, because it's tough enough. And if you think, becoming a doctor or, some sort of position, dental position, that's just as tough. You need to put your blood, sweat, and tears in that 150%. So there's only one road for me, and it's this.
Who would you say inspires you the most?
In specifically, or they don't say.
I guess just in general.
Just in general. Well, as an actor, I mentioned before, Sean Penn and Gary Oldman. Those are my guys. I'm inspired by them, and I'm inspired if I want to kind of like run the gamut somewhat. I'm inspired by films that are real films, true stories. I really love that. And ordinary people, a slice of life is just fantastic. Not that I don't like adventure films, but I'm inspired by real stories. Yeah.
Okay. And there's one more question. Do you think it's easier to get a job with stealth tape submissions or harder because the field is so open and casting agents get so many submissions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Self-tapes are difficult. I do my best when I'm in the room. Submissions, I get quite a few submissions. My people representing me has gotten me quite a few submissions, but it's maybe it's something that I need to get my head around, because I like to play around in the room. Say, let's try something different. Let's do, you have thoughts or ideas, let's F it up, So, I prefer doing that as opposed to being here. And, yes, you could do take after take when you're home, but really, I like being in the room with the director and seeing the casting people. There's a different kind of energy that you just don't get when you're home alone. And some other actors that are friends of mine love doing that at home because they could do take after take after take. For me, I just like having a one-on-one with a director and just playing. So that's how I feel. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, for your energy. I feel inspired. I think the idea that what you said in the middle of all this was, make it happen. Like, don't complain. Don't wish for something. Just do it. Your dad was amazing. Like, I wish my dad had said that to me. I think that that's an amazing way to live your life and make that choices. And having spent this last half an hour, you met it. And I truly thank you. And I hope you feel better soon. Although talking about this, I'm thinking your energy is pretty good right now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
The artwork on the wall are my father's. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's with me all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very touching. Thank you.
Don't just wish and wonder. Do something about it.
Well,
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye. And perfect timing, senor. On our next screen is Paul Borghese, actor, director, producer, does it all. And so I'm glad you're here. And if you're ready, I'm ready with my first question.
You can see me and hear me?
Absolutely. You have taken command of your space.
My space was supposed to be in my film office. I thought it would be a nice background and atmosphere for this interview, but the Wi-Fi is down. So I'm over here at the Blauvelt Sons of Italy. If you can see, it's our bar area. A lot of people know of us. And so I scooted over here for the Wi-Fi.
Well, we appreciate that. And here is my first question. What was your first love, acting or directing?
Well, I kind of got into both at the same time. When I was in my 20s, I opened up a pizza and pasta joint that had beer and wine, a bar there. And my best friend, Alex DeMena, was my partner. So we were called Al Paulies. And although I had done, some plays previous to that and always kind of wanted to be in the movie business, I decided we wanted to do a local cable commercial. This is back when it was TKR cable before Optimum and everything it is now. And we did a 30-second commercial for the pizza joint. And I got so into it, and I loved so much being a part of creating the commercial and writing it and being in it, that I just got the bug. So I had already graduated from college, and I went back to school to the Center for Media Arts in Manhattan, which was near FIT at the time. And I was studying film and television production. And at the same time, I went to HBO Studios, and not HBO, HB Studios in Greenwich Village to take acting classes. So it all kind of merged at the same time. And I've been working in front of and behind the camera ever since.
Wow. It's good that you could figure out that you wanted to do both and have had the opportunities to do that.
But at this point now, a lot of people ask me, like, where are you at now with that? For a long time, I wasn't sure. Now I believe I'm kind of merging more into the directing and putting more of my time into the directing. I mean, I love acting, and it's great sometimes just to prepare for the role, learn your lines, become that character, show up, do your job, and go home. Whereas, when you're a director, you could be working on a feature film for 1, 2, 3 years, but I like being a part of the process, from soup to nuts.
Oh, that's good to know. And obviously you have been. But first, I want to talk to you about your acting. You are the only person to ever play Yogi Berra as a player in the HBO movie 61. So I wanted to know what it was like to meet Yogi Berra and then to play Yogi Berra.
Yeah, well, that was a great experience, and pretty much one of the biggest highlights of my career, working on the HBO movie 61. And it just was a great experience because HBO rolled out the red carpet for me. They arranged for me to meet Yogi before we did the movie, so I'd get to know him and I could spend some time with him. And so I met him at the Yogi Berra Museum at Montclair State. And I had to learn, Yogi was a righty. He played righty, but he hit lefty. And as a ball player, I was always just played righty. So Yogi actually helped me to learn how to switch hit and to be able to hit lefty. But if you watch the whole movie, none of the Yankees, the other Yankees get up to bat except for Mantle and Maris, because the movie was about the Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris home run race, although they sent us to baseball training camp. So a lot of guys are paying to go to fantasy camp, and I was being paid to go to like a fantasy camp. So it was overall, like a great experience. And we won a Best Ensemble Cast Emmy. So that was rewarding as well. And it's right now running on HBO Max. So if anybody hasn't seen the movie yet, it's on HBO Max. Whether you're a baseball fan or not, it's a great movie.
I agree. It was wonderful to watch, and I was not a huge baseball fan, so it was very cool. Did Yogi Berra have any sayings while he worked with you?
Well, Yogi there's a whole book of yogiisms. And at the time, I used to be able to ramble them off at the tip of my tongue. And on set, Billy Crystal was our director, and he'd be like, Paulie, give us a yogiism. And I would throw them out there. But the one funny thing that's in the movie that people don't know is Yogi once said about Mickey Mantle being a switch hitter, he called him, instead of ambidextrous, he called him amphibious, which was but when we were doing the scene, for some reason I said, look at him over there on this side of the plate, that side of the plate. And the character who played Elston Howard, the catcher, who took over for Yogi behind the plate, he says, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I said, he's ambidextrial. And then we finished the scene and Billy goes, were you supposed to say ambidextrial or ambidextrous or amphibious? And I said, I don't know. I just kind of came up with ambidextrial and it sounded funny. And Billy Chris was like, I like it. Let's leave it in. So it made it into the movie, and Yogi actually got a kick out of it and pointed it out to me.
That's great. That's very good. I'm glad you had an impression on him too.
I hope. Funny thing about Yogi is when he first came out to set, when we were playing baseball, and I was in a uniform with the number 8 on it, a period uniform. Yogi, I said, so Yogi, what do you think? Kind of like, what do you make of me, being you. And he looked me over and he goes, where'd you get my uniform from? And I was like, yeah, he really meant it. And I said, no, Yogi, this isn't like your uniform. This is, the production created uniforms. And he goes, it looks just like my uniform. And it was funny because has an innocence to him. And he's just such really a genuine man. I miss him. He's gone. We don't have him anymore, but he'll forever be, a baseball icon. And as an Italian-American baseball player, for me to have played, an Italian-American role model like that, couldn't say a bad word about Yogi. So for me, that was one of the peaks of my career.
That sounds like it was an honor to play him. And you've been in another movie, The Irishman. Can you share with us your Joe Pesci story?
Yeah, being the Irishman was great because it was the first time I had the opportunity to be directed by the great Martin Scorsese. And I was in 4 scenes, but only 1 scene made it into the movie. But it was a great one because it was with Joe Pesci. And the funny thing about that, or the funny and rewarding thing about that, was when I went in to do a scene with him. It's a scene where I come in and, I'm one of the wise guys and I have to give him an envelope of cash and I have to get approval before, you take anybody out or anything like that. So he has this material store that was like a front for his character. And we actually shot that in Suffern, New York. And it was supposed to be somewhere else and set back in the era that it was. So Joe and I did the scene, and Martin Scorsese shoots the scenes over and over and over and over again. And we spent the whole day on the scene. And the portion of it that Joe and I talk, which Robert De Niro is doing a voiceover at the same time, he was talking to me before, and he recognized me because we knew each other, because he knew my father. My father's family business was a men's clothing store in Little Italy of the Bronx, Arthur Avenue, and East 187th Street, called B&G Clothes. It was open for almost 100 years. And Joe used to get his clothes there, his suits. So he says, "Oh, boy, I haven't seen you in a long time. How you been?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing good. It's good to see you again." And he said, "How's your dad doing? How's your father doing?" I said, "Oh, unfortunately, we lost him. He's been gone for a while." And he's, "Oh, geez, I'm sorry. I didn't know, Paul. Give my regards to the family." So we start rehearsing the scene. And at the end of the scene, every time, Joe says, "And don't forget to say hello to your father for me." I didn't say anything when we rehearsed it. He improv'd a little bit. And every time we did the scene, which he must have done it 18, 20 times, Joe would end the scene while I was still in frame saying, "And don't forget to say hello to your father for me." I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything. When Martin Scorsese said, "Okay, we're wrapped from the scene, we're moving on," I went to him. I said, "Joe, I got to ask you something. That whole thing about say hello to your father, don't forget to say father for me, that wasn't in the script. And I don't think that was about our characters, because we never established that you knew my father in the movie." I go, "Was that kind of like a me and you thing?" He goes, "Yeah, what do you think, kid?" He goes, "That was a gift." He goes, "I'm saying say hello to your father, so now you can go home and tell your mother when you watch the movie, Joe is saying hello to Dad in heaven." And I said, wow, I just got the chills when he said that. So if anybody watches the movie and you hear Joe Pesci say that line, it was improvised, and it was a gift. It was what we call an Easter egg in the business. And he gave me a really, really valuable and heartwarming Easter egg, let's say.
Yeah, that's very touching. It was, I'm sure your mom was thrilled to know that, to find that out. And
my dad in heaven, I'm sure he saw it too.
That's good to know. And it's nice for you to share heartwarming things about Joe Pesci, because we don't get to share that or get to know that. So I appreciate it. And it was good that you guys were connected in a way where he could share that and then explain it. So that it sounds like that part of the movie was heartfelt and well done, because it made it into the movie.
Yeah, I thought the movie was a masterpiece. I mean, it's 3.5 hours long, and a lot of people said, "Wow, long movie," and they expected, a really violent movie out of Martin Scorsese when it came to mob theme. But this was different. It was like him evolving as the director, telling a different story with calmer wise guys, smarter wise guys. And just like, so I really think if you watch that movie more than just once, and if you see it on the big screen, you're in awe of it, which I was.
Did you learn about directing from Martin Scorsese? I imagine you did. I guess, what did you learn from him?
Well, I mean, I've been a director for a long time, so I gave Marty a few tips. No, I'm only kidding. No, I mean, I just loved watching him. I love how he knows exactly what he wants, but yet he still gives the actors a certain freedom, and he lets the scene sort of breathe and evolve to what it might. It's not just what's on the pages, which is sort of how I work too. I mean, a lot of people tell me I'm an actor's director. Maybe that's because I'm an actor. Some directors are very technical. They don't give their actors, any notes or any direction. They just kind of let them do it. And sometimes they're like, okay, that's good. And actors are always looking for approval or notes or adjustments. But I always really, really work with the actors to try to, get into their heads, what they think their character is like, and see what they think their character is like, and make them as very comfortable on set as possible. I think that's the most important thing. I know as an actor, the more comfortable I am, because we all get butterflies, no matter what, no matter how comfortable I am, the most comfortable I am makes me give the best performance, because it's not until you really get it down and you do it the way it's supposed to be done in the script, and then you have room to play with it a little bit and try to do something a little differently with it. So that's what I always try to do in the films that I direct is be there for the act.
It's a good lesson for actors and for directors to be able to make the actor comfortable in the process of putting together the film. I can appreciate that. So despite never winning an Oscar, you've been seen at the Oscars. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, no, I've never been nominated for one either, for that matter. I don't know if that's in the future or not, but that's not my goal. My goal is to just be a working actor and a working director. But I forget what year it was, but it just so happened in that same year, there was a movie called Trans-America, which was way ahead of its time when you think about what's going on now, right? And Felicity Huffman played the lead, and she was a transitioning man into a woman. And I had a role in that movie at the time, not knowing it was going to be a big movie and that she was going to get nominated for Best Leading Actress. I played a cop. I arrest her son. I'm in a few scenes. They didn't all make it into the movie, which seems to happen over and over again. But when they called her nomination up, they showed a clip from her performance, and it was the scene with me and her son. So my phone starts ringing off the hook. I'm watching the Oscars. I just saw you in the scene with Felicity Huffman, and I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that. So that was a big treat. Almost like being in a Super Bowl commercial. Everyone you knew your whole life is gonna see you. And the show goes on. They're doing a Lifetime Achievement Award for Sidney Lumet, who's a famous director that everyone knows. And they're showing a montage of his work. Now, I had just finished doing a movie for him, playing Gino Mascarpone in a movie called Find Me Guilty with Vin Diesel as the lead. And it hadn't come out yet, but I guess they got a hold of some of his footage to show his body of work. And what do? They show in the montage a scene and a clip of something I'm in. Phone starts ringing again. The text messages, I just saw you again on the Oscars, the Academy Awards. What's going on? So I was like, it was funny and distracting at the same time, because you're trying to watch it. But I mean, that's as close as I've gotten to the Oscars. And even if I ever do get there, I mean, who knows if I'll be seen twice, right?
You can, when you get your Lifetime Achievement Award, you can ask to have those two scenes put in so that you could, your phone could ring off the hook again.
Give me that, but maybe 20 years from now, the Rockland Arts Council might consider.
Fair enough. That would be good. All right, so we're switching from acting and we're going to directing. You've directed many famous actors, including Danny Glover, Lorraine Bracco, Alec Baldwin, Sandra Bernhardt, Ice-T, Mike Tyson. Do you have any stories about directing them?
Wow, yeah, that's a good chunk of very well-known actors that I've directed, and there's been so many more, and I've been very blessed as an independent film director to have had actors like that. It's funny you mentioned Mike Tyson, because he's not really an actor; he's a boxer. But yeah, I've had just great experiences with all of them. I mean, as far as stories, yeah, there's lots of stories. I mean, some that I probably wouldn't tell in a public Zoom, but I don't want to say anything negative about experiences, but I've had mostly positive experiences. Alec Baldwin was completely generous as an actor. I mean, in the way of giving to me what he did. He even gave me an extra day on the set that he wasn't even paid for, which, you don't hear this about A-list actors. I mean, I've directed Armand Assante and Kathy Moriarty. They did that for me as well. We ran late one day and there was no way we were going to shoot this scene. And I was like, is there any way we could get you back tomorrow? We don't have a budget to pay you for another day. Okay, Paul, we'll do it for you. So those are good and positive things. But I guess a funny thing, which I just came to mind now, is, Danny Glover, because everyone knows Danny Glover, big, tall, Black man, soft-spoken, but very powerful as an actor in some of his roles. I remember there was a movie I directed called Back in the Day. And, he pays the fighters. It's a boxing movie. William DeMeo stars in the movie and also produced the movie together with me, and he wrote it. And Danny was always on set. His back, he had a bad back, and he was always leaning and just not saying anything until it was time to work, very quiet. And then one day we were getting ready. We were at a gym, at a real seedy, gym in the Bronx that was doubling for a Brooklyn gym. And all of a sudden he just yelling. I'm trying to set up the shot. And he's like, am I allowed to curse on here if it's not a really bad word?
Probably not.
Okay. All right.
You can initial it.
I hear yelling, going, where's my GD fresh squeezed orange juice? Where's my GD orange juice? And there's no heat in my trailer to treat the trailer. And I'm like, so I'm not paying attention because I don't know who it is. And I'm trying to set up the shot, this and that. And then I turn and, I see that the person complaining, yelling, like, where the hell am I goddamn fresh squeezed orange juice? I don't ask for nothing around here. And there's the heat isn't working in my trailer. And I'm like, oh, Danny, come on. Of all things, can I not get him his fresh squeezed orange juice and make sure the heat's working in his trailer? So I look in and then he comes, and I guess he didn't mean to come to me and complain to me as a director. It just worked out that as the crew crowd opened up, and so that Danny could walk into the room to complain, he came face to face with me. So I'm looking at him and he's saying it, and he's kind of realizing, that, oh shit, like I'm bitching, but like I'm bitching to Paul and he's the director and this isn't his thing. And so I kind of just like looked at him and took this moment, almost like in Goodfellas when Ray Liotta looks at Joe Pesci when he was like saying, what are you laughing at? You think I'm funny? And he figures out that he's just kidding. So I give him this look kind of like, is he kidding or is he really just mad? And I didn't want to acknowledge that I might have been yelled at or anything as a director, because it could have been looked like I was disrespected. So I just said, I didn't really look at Danny. I just looked around. I said, can somebody just get Danny his goddamn fresh orange juice and fix the damn heat in his trailer, And then but the way I said it, he just started laughing, and it was just like a funny moment, and it lightened up what could have been a really dramatic and ugly moment if he didn't want to work another 12 hours after that.
I'm glad you were able to take care of him and make what could have not been could have been a really bad day into a good day for both of you, by lighting the situation.
You have to be, as a director, you have to be like a director, a producer, a psychiatrist, a lawyer, a therapist, you have to be a parent. You have to be all these things to everybody, because everybody comes to you with the issues and the problems. And usually you have people under you that try to put the fires out, and you have producers that are troubleshooters and take care of it. But I always want to know what's going on. So when I hear something's going on, I will go over myself, even if it's a production assistant that there's an issue with, and I'll go talk to them. What's the matter? How come, this and that? Why, and I'll usually, I'm a pretty good fixer, and I take pride in that.
It's what makes you a good director and a good producer, and gives you, allows you to have all the opportunities you have, because you are somebody people want to work with. So that's wonderful to hear. So what do you have going on now that we should know about?
A lot of things going on now, a lot of things in development that, are in development. So there's not too much to say, but I could tell you that currently I have a few movies that, like, for example, 61 we just mentioned is right now streaming on HBO Max. Um, I've been working on this. I've done a lot of work with William DeMeo as far as directing movies that he's produced and also played lead roles in. But he now has a television series called Gravesend, which the first brief introductory season was on Amazon Prime. And my character, I don't direct it, but my character of FBI agent Christopher Morano is introduced. But now season 2 is going to be coming probably in April or May. And my character is much bigger. It's called Gravesend. It's a series. I can't say looks like it's getting bumped up from Amazon Prime to Netflix or another network. It's there's a negotiation going on, so I can't say for sure where they'll be able to see it. But you can look for Gravesend, and if you follow me on my Instagram account at Paul BORGHESE, you'll definitely be able to see updates on that. And then there's also a movie called Mob King that I did in Florida last year. I played a role in, and that's going to be getting released soon. So, I mean, there's a bunch more I could go on, but those are a few that are happening. Oh, and what is it? I actually wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn is a feature film that I'm really proud of. Stars Armand Assante, Ice-T, Kathy Moriarty, Ja Rule, William DeMeo, and that's right now running on Showtime. Everybody tells me. So I really love this movie. It's a film I directed, and it's called Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn. So if you have Showtime, try to catch it.
What's it about? Can you give us a little blurb?
Yeah, well, it's about
Once upon a time.
yeah, a guy who does time, and he gets out, and when he gets out, you know, his father Armand Assante really wants him to go the straight and narrow. He's a legitimate contractor, and he has this 1969 Pontiac GTO in the garage that they stored for him while he was away for all these years. And he comes back and gets right into the car. And originally it was titled Goat. I wrote the movie to be called Goat because that's what back in the late 60s and early 70s, the Pontiac GTO was referred to as a goat. It was like the greatest of all times. Since then, they've, used and reused Goat for too many different things, but it was originally for the Pontiac GTO. And then the distributor changed the title to Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn. But really, it's about his journey and his father trying to keep him through the straight and narrow. He goes back to the streets, and there's a lot of drama in it. But there's a really, really great cast, really stylishly shot with cinematography, and I shot a lot of it in Rockland County. So if you watch, I shoot a lot in Rockland County. Watch the movie, you'll see a lot of stuff that's supposed to maybe be Brooklyn or Staten Island. And you'll say, oh, wait a minute, I recognize that. I shot at Tappan Cemetery. It's supposed to be a cemetery in Staten Island. I don't want to give too much more of that away, but I hope people come see this movie.
It sounds exciting, and the characters sound well developed, and definitely worth seeing, especially for the I know where that is moment.
Yeah. And I have to mention my cousin Tony Darrow, whose real name is Anthony BORGHESE. Everybody knows him from Goodfellas. He gets the bottle broken over his head by Joe Pesci. He's plays Sonny Buns in that. He's in that movie. He's in most of my movies, and he's also in this, and he plays a great character.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. I have one more question. I know that you live your life giving back for good causes, and I was wondering whether or not there's going to be a Paul BORGHESE sighting anytime soon.
Yeah. If you're outside of the Sons of Italy right now in Bloodveld, you'll see me walking out. Well, Saturday, you can at Home Depot. I start working there every Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, 2 to 8. No, only kidding. Well, as actors, we have to do something in between. No, that's a joke. That's a joke. No Home Depot. Not wrong with anybody working at Home Depot, but I would love it if I could get more help when I go there. Yeah, I'm involved in a lot of charity. Once a year, we have an annual Italian feast and carnival in Tappan, and I'm the entertainment director and MC, and that's sponsored by the Bloodveld Sons of Italy, and I give a lot of time to that, and I get asked to do a lot of things. Recently, the Penguin Plunge, I just did something for last week. You were there, you attended with Lisa, and I have trouble saying no to these things, but I guess that's a good thing.
It's a good way to live your life when you have the time, and we appreciate that. So, is there anything else going on that we should know about?
I guess we talked about things I've done. We've talked about upcoming. If we're going to do any Q&As, I'd be happy to answer any questions if we have time.
Perfect lead in. Michael, thank you.
Yes, we have some questions. First up, what advice do you have for people starting off in acting?
Are you like the moderator, or are you the guy who was on the last one that's asking more questions? I saw you on the last one when I tuned in.
He's the moderator. He's the guy that keeper of all the questions.
I thought I would actually get to see the people's faces that
No.
were asking questions.
Oh, because
No.
we're it's not a live. Right,
Okay.
because of the way we did it, because we don't want to be hacked.
You know who's asking?
Michael is the keeper of the questions.
Michael, do you know who's asking by any chance?
It says Lisa D.
Oh, okay. Oh, and what's the question again? I'm sorry.
What advice do you have for people starting off in acting?
First of all, get a nice fireplace like you have. It's a good place to rehearse, it looks like. What advice people that are starting off in acting? Do something else. No one wants to hear that, okay? I mean, perfectly honest, a lot of people come to me and say, can my son meet with you, my daughter, my niece, my nephew? And I do tell people, as much as I love it, and if you have a passion for it, you have to try anything, but it's a very, very, very tough business. And it's a very unstable business. It's changing and keeps changing and changing. So if there's anything else you could do or think of that you love, go for it, because, you know, there's many more stable careers out there with a lot more financial security. And if you want to raise a family and you want to be able to afford things and have a normal life and normal hours, go for it. But if you absolutely have to go after the acting, you have to do it 24/7. You have to be constantly on now everything's technology. You know, you have to be on your computer, on your smartphone, and you have to be up to date on everything. Have a website, be on social media, network, and get really good headshots and give and deliver the best auditions you can, but study, study, study.
Okay, we have a question from, and I'm going to not get her last name right. Her name is Eileen Matasinos.
Oh, a nice Jewish name.
As a director, what would you say is the most difficult part?
We're allowed to kid around here a little bit, right? I mean,
She's a personal friend of mine. You're good.
I like, by the way, CBGB t-shirt. I keep talking about Mike. So what was the most, the hardest thing about acting? Was that the question?
Director, as a director, what would you say is the most difficult part?
Getting hired. Well, you know, as a director, if when you cross over, which I haven't really crossed over into, let's say, network television, where you're always called and, you know, you've called it for this episode of that series and this one and the other one. But as an independent film director, which I mostly am, you know, if you to build up a name for yourself, to be hired by a writer, producer that has seen your previous work, it's a hard thing to do and to build a reputation for. So, you know, the other thing is that you're raising money. If you're going to raise money and raise financing for your own projects, that's a tough road to go down to. So I would say, you know, financing and raising funds to be able to direct. So that's why I think directing short films is a very good thing for directors that want to aspire to direct feature films, because it can help lead to that.
Okay, we have a question from Robert Ranillo, and his question is
another Jewish name. Are there all Jewish people here tonight? Hi, Robert.
What was it like working with Marilyn Chambers?
Marilyn Chambers. That I didn't work with Marilyn Chambers, okay? I had nothing to do with Behind the Green Door. That's funny. No one has ever brought that up in an interview. No, way back early on in my career, I actually forgot about that. I was working as an assistant director and associate producer, you know, trying to break in. And there was a production company that was breaking into the area of these like sort of Cinemax late night romantic comedies and erotic thrillers and things like that. And they had crossed over some of the really famous. She's like an icon because she was an adult actress, but before she was trying to aspire to be a real actress, well, whatever you want to call it. And she wound up getting on an ad on an ivory snowbox. And then Ivory Snowbox came out on all the shelves of her picture. But in that process, she became an adult actress and a famous one. So it was a big uproar, and they had to take all the Ivory Snowboxes off the shelf. I don't know if people know the story, but they thrust her over into like a regular like R-rated Cinemax movie and put her in it. So worked on that as an assistant director. So that's a funny story, but it wasn't one of those kind of movies.
Okay, and
I died, I believe. I don't think she's alive anymore.
no, yeah, she passed away. Another question from Michelle Phillips. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started? What would you tell your 21-year-old self?
When I get older, to make sure that I go to Michelle Phillips' inspirational speaking appearances, because I know who Michelle is, and she's a really positive person. And what would I tell myself when I was, would I go back and tell my 21-year-old self from what I know now?
Yes.
Wow, that's a tough one, Michelle. I mean, as they always say, if we knew then what we know now. It depends if it's personal or if it's career. If it's career, I would say do everything that you possibly can do, and which I've done to try to make a living in this business, which I have. I probably would tell my 21-year self, listen to your father more. Your father knows more than you're giving him credit for, because there's a lot of things my father told me when I was 21 years old that I didn't want to hear, and I thought I could do it my way. And I probably could have gone a lot further and done a lot more and done things a lot better and more right if I listened to my father. So if you're young and you're watching and listening, listen to your parents. They know more than you do.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for your time and your energy and sharing with us all the history and the story of your current and previous experiences. And we were very lucky to have you as part of the Rockland Arts Festival. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Well, thanks for having me. And as far as what I do next, real quickly, Monday night, Michelle Phillips is speaking at Our Lady of Sacred Heart Parish School. It's a real positive thinking 45-minute at 8:15 p.m. Invitational engagement, and I'll be there as well if anybody wants to come. Hi, I see someone else. I better get going. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We have many more things to go. We have a whole 4 or 5 more days worth of events. And on Sunday, please come find us at the Palisade Center. There are 50 artists that will be there showing their work with music and snacks. And hopefully we will see you there. Have a great night. Thank you.